We go to 185-pounders, the middleweight division. Number 1 in the world, Johnny North. Without looking at your paper in front of you, take a guess.
Probably Anderson Silva.
Yeah, you would be correct. That is the easiest trivia question I will ask all year. Anderson Silva, 33 wins, 4 losses. He's the UFC middleweight champ, the greatest middleweight of all time, perhaps the greatest fighter to ever live. He beat Stephan Bonner in October. He's still waiting on his next fight. Chael Sonnen, we have ranked as the number 2 middleweight on the planet. And as we do, as is our custom in these rankings, we keep you in your weight class until you make the jump to a different weight class. So even though Chael Sonnen is scheduled to make the jump in April to light heavyweight, we still have him ranked as a middleweight until he actually makes the weight and has that fight in another division. And then we'll have him ranked somewhere else. So Chael remains the number 2 middleweight in the world. At number 3, we have the undefeated 8-0 Chris Weidman, who was supposed to fight Tim Boetsch later this month, but unfortunately for Weidman, he's injured. So Boetsch will now fight Konstantinos Philippou on December 29th at UFC 155. So Weidman's at number 3. Vitor Belfort, 21 wins, 9 losses. He's at number 4 on the planet. He'll fight Michael the Count Bisping on January 19th. At number 5 is Michael the Count Bisping. 23 wins, 4 losses for Bisping. At number 6, 12-3 Mark Munoz, who's injured right now and still waiting for his next fight to be scheduled. At number 7, Brian Stann, 12-5. He lost a decision to Bisping in September and still doesn't have his next fight scheduled. At number 8 on the planet, at middleweight, Yushin Thunder Okami, 27 wins, 7 losses. He takes on Alan Belcher on December 29th at UFC 155. I told you I was going to be telling you about some sick fights in December. How about that one? Okami Belcher, the 29th, UFC 155. Get ready. At number 9 in the world, the Strikeforce middleweight champion, 10-1 Luke Rockhold, who is injured and will likely fight his next fight in the UFC and not for Strikeforce. And at number 10 in the world, 16-4, Tim Boetsch, coming off a decision victory over Hector Lombard in July. Boetsch, as I said, will fight Costa Philippou on the 29th of December. Honorable mentions at 185 pounds go out to Mamed Khalidov, Husimar Palhares, Ronaldo Jacare Souza, Wanderlei Silva, Alan Belcher, and Jake Shields. All guys that are hovering around that top 10 and are top 20 fighters in the world at middleweight. We move down to the welterweight division. Of course, the number 1, the welterweight kingpin, the king of pay-per-view, George Rush St-Pierre, 23 wins, 2 losses. He's the UFC champ. Coming off that win over Carlos Condit earlier this month. A brilliant victory via decision. At number 2 in the world, Carlos Condit, 28 wins, 6 losses now. His next fight, of course, not scheduled. He's coming off that loss to GSP on the 17th of this month. Yeah, Condit lost. But when you're the number 2 guy losing to the number 1 guy, nothing really changes. You were kind of supposed to lose to that number 1 guy. You're number 2. If you were supposed to beat him, you'd be ranked number 1. So, no movement for Carlos Condit. We had him ranked number 2 last month, and no movement this month. We actually haven't had any movement in any of the divisions so far in the top 10 list. Exactly the same as we had last month. So Condit remains at number 2. Nick Diaz comes in at number 3, 26 wins, 8 losses, the former Strikeforce champion. Still looking for his next bout. At number 4, 13-1, Johnny K.O. Hendricks with that knockout win over Martin Kampmann. At number 5, Josh Koscheck. At number 6, John Fitch. Fitch will fight Damian Maia on February 2nd in his next bout. At number 7, Martin Kampmann. Kampmann, again, another guy who was number 7 last month. He fought the number 4 guy. Hendricks was ranked number 4 last month. Kampmann was ranked number 7. They fought. Hendricks won. Hendricks didn't beat Nick Diaz, didn't beat Carlos Condit, didn't beat GSP, which means he can't go up into the top 3. So Hendricks stays at 4. And Martin Kampmann, well, yeah, he lost to Johnny Hendricks, but he was ranked 7th and Hendricks was ranked 4th. So Kampmann doesn't drop in the rankings. At number 8, we have Rory McDonald. And I debated, does Rory McDonald deserve that 7th spot? Should Kampmann drop to 8? Maybe he does, but let's wait till Rory McDonald fights BJ Penn on December the 8th. Let's wait to see what happens between BJ Penn and Rory McDonald on December the 8th. And if Rory wins, then you can bet he's going to jump up in the rankings. He could even jump up into the top 5. With an impressive victory over BJ Penn, you got to look at Rory McDonald at number 8 right now, 12-1. If he can go 13-1 with a win over BJ Penn, you got to look at Rory McDonald as one of the best in the world and maybe top 5 come January 2013 when we do the next month's rankings. So McDonald remains at number 8, remaining at number 9, the Strikeforce champion, 32-10, Nate Marquardt. He'll fight Tarek Safadine in January. And at number 10, 17-4, Damian Maia. Coming off that brilliant submission win over Rick Story in October, Maia will fight Fitch in February. So the number 10 guy, Maia, fights the number 6 guy, Fitch, in February. Very exciting stuff there. Honorable mentions at welterweight. Going out to BJ the Prodigy Penn, Dong Young Kim, John Hathaway, Eric Silva, Thiago Alves, Rick Story, Diego Sanchez, and Jake Ellenberger. All those guys I consider top 20 in the world at welterweight. So they're honorable mentions. They don't make the top 10, but they're hovering. And with a big win, they could make it right into that top 10.